So you're new to Genshin, you do a 10 pull on the current banner, and you get 5-star Yae Miko. Now, what do you get with Yae Miko besides the mean fox lady that made Goru the way that he is? Well, Yae Miko is a catalyst-wielding electro user, and her skill, when correctly placed, can do a lot of damage for you, even when she's not on the field. So these videos are meant for somebody that is like new to Genshin, new to the character, new to the journey of my hair color. And so I make them in a way that anybody can hopefully understand them. So if you do learn something from this video, or you just want to keep up with my hair color, then do be sure to scroll down, like the video, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. And with that being said, let's get into this video on Yae Miko. So I do want to say my hair is not pink. I know it kind of looks pink. It should still be purple. I mean, it does kind of match Miko's color. Like, I'm looking at it right now. It does kind of match it. But so like we do with every single one of these videos, we are going to look at the build of the character that we are using in the video. One, it might be a look at a future build later on further in the game, or it could be an idea as to why my character, the character that I'm using, is hitting more or less than yours. It could just be a different artifact set, could be a different weapon. This is a great way to figure it out and tell. So I am currently working on my Yae Miko. She is level 70 out of 70 with right over 1,000 attack and 253 EM. Her crit split is 68.3 over 135.1 with 104.5 energy recharge. That is really, really low, especially for somebody like Yae Miko. And she does have an unfinished leveled goblet, so she has 20.9 electro damage. Because Yae Miko gets crit rate on Ascension, I am running a level 70 Widzith R3 on her. I am currently running 4-piece Golden Troop. I essentially just took my Fischl's artifact sets. Poor C6 Fischl. She is C0 and her talents are 111. I told you I am working on her. I'm getting her to level 80, and then I'm going to start working on everything else. So now that we're finished looking at the current Yae Miko, let's go look at her attacks, skill, and burst. So with Yae Miko being a catalyst user, her normal and her charge attacks are going to be of her element. So if we do a normal attack, she's just going to do a wave of the spiritual wand thingy, and she is going to hit the enemy with electro damage. You see, I think it is 1, 2, 3, 4, I believe. 1, 2, 3. It's only 3. So she does have some range, as you can see, but it's not like Yanfei, where she can just, like, you know, throw the pyro ball all the way across the screen, all the way across the domain. It does have a bit of a range. So her charge attacks are going to do multiple lightning hits in a line, and any enemy in that line are going to be hit. Now, Yae Miko's charge attacks do take a long time. They have a long animation. And while I don't normally talk about this in beginner guides, you can do a jump cancel. So whenever she does the wave of the spiritual wand, whenever the fox is over her shoulder, you can jump to cancel it. You can jump, dash, something like that to cancel the animation. If you do it too soon, if you try to jump cancel too soon, it just doesn't do the attack. It just stops it. But if you wait until it's over her shoulder, then you can do the cancel of the animation. Just a little extra thing. I don't usually talk about that stuff in these kind of beginner guides, but I did want to mention it just because she does have such a long one. So now we're going to talk about her skill. And what her skill is going to do is it is going to propel her forward or backwards, depending on if you're moving or not, and place this little turret. Now, this little turret is going to intermittently do electro damage. Now you notice though that down at her skill has multiple dots on it, multiple uses. She can place multiple turrets, specifically 3 turrets. If you place them close enough for them to connect, typically a triangular shape is the best, then they will get a damage bonus. They will also strike more often because there's more turrets available to strike, but they will do more damage. As you can see here by itself, it wasn't even breaking 1,000. Now each hit is hitting 2,378. When one of the turrets breaks, it goes down to 1,900. So it is getting extra damage when you have multiple turrets and they're connected. They have to be connected. If they are not connected, it's going to treat them just like an individual turret. So you notice that the skill cooldown is not very long for this. That is that way you can place the multiple turrets. And the skill cooldown only applies to one single dot, one placement, one turret. If you place a 4th turret, it will destroy the oldest as well as resetting the skill cooldown. So if you're not happy with the current placement of them, like you beat enemies and more spawn in a different area, then the skill cooldown doesn't take too long. You can destroy those turrets to get the skill to reset its cooldown because of one of her passives, and you can move them to where the newer enemies are. Now we're going to talk about her burst. And with her burst, you get this really, really cool animation, and you have the Fox Kitsune lightning come down and strike your enemies. Now, if you have turrets on the field, it will use up the turrets, increasing the damage that the burst will do. You will get an extra lightning strike from her burst for every turret that's on the field, as well as resetting the skill cooldown completely whenever you break the turrets from her burst. So you want to place the turrets in good spots so that way they're all connected, doing damage to the enemies, and then whenever you swap her on and use her burst, you are going to be getting a lot more damage. Something else, Yae Miko's burst energy cost is the highest in the game. There's only 2 characters with an energy burst cost of 90. One of them is Yae Miko, the other one is Raiden. So having some energy recharge on Yae Miko is going to be really, really good. But depending on what you're using her for, you might not be using her burst as often. So now we're going to talk about a beginner artifact set. For a beginner artifact set, you want to do like a 2-piece gambler because the 2-piece set gets up your elemental skill damage, which Yae Miko is going to use a lot. But the 4-piece set just resets the cooldown whenever you defeat an enemy, and the cooldown isn't that long anyway. So forget the 4-piece set, do the 2-piece set, and then do like a 2-piece exile to get her energy recharge up so that way you can use her burst more often. You could, instead of exile, do like resolution, so that way you can just get her attack up because she will appreciate that, or even instructor because she will appreciate the elemental mastery if you have her on like a quicken team. So for the main stats of the artifacts, you either want to do an attack or elemental mastery sans depending on the team that you're running her in. After that, you want to do an electro damage goblet. And then after that, you want to do either a crit rate or a crit damage circlet. Now, Yae Miko does get crit rate upon Ascension, so depending on what weapon you have her on, depending on what you need more on, just do that circlet. Now, I am running Widzith on her like we showed at the beginning, so I am running a crit rate circlet. Also, I don't have a crit damage golden troop, so that would be another reason why. For a beginner weapon, you do have 3-star Magic Guide, which does get up elemental mastery as well as its passive, increasing damage against opponents affected by Hydro or Electro. Now, since Yae Miko does Electro damage, she can take full use of this passive, so this can be a very, very good 3-star weapon for her. You can use Emerald Orb. It does also get up Elemental Mastery. However, you would have to make sure that you're causing Electro charged to get its passive, so typically Magic Guide is going to be better. Now, you do have a 4-star craftable weapon called Mappamar, where you get the recipe as soon as you log into Genshin, the game just gives it to you. You don't have to do any quests or anything. This also gets up Elemental Mastery, but its passive can be really, really good. So upon triggering an elemental reaction, it grants an 8% elemental damage bonus for 10 seconds with a max of 2 stacks. That's 16%. So Mappamar can be very, very good for Yae Miko. Now, if you are an Inazuma, which in order to ascend Yae Miko, you kind of have to be, and you've gotten the Inazuma craftable weapons, then Yae Miko's best free-to-play option is going to be the craftable catalyst from Inazuma. So right here, it gets up energy recharge. Now, after the character equipped with this weapon triggers an electro-elemental reaction, nearby party members of an elemental type involved in the reaction will receive a 10% elemental damage bonus for their element. So this can be very, very good for her. Elemental recharge means that you're going to be using her burst a lot. And if you are doing like a quicken team where you're doing Dendro and Electro, this can be very, very good for her because it's going to give her an elemental buff and it's going to give your Dendro character an elemental buff constantly because of this. So this can be really, really good for her. Now, like I was saying earlier, one of the downsides to Yae Miko is that she's from Inazuma. And if you know anything about Genshin, it is that Inazuma is locked behind Archon quests. You cannot go to it early like you can Fontaine or Sumeru. You have to do the Archon quest to get to Inazuma. And not only that, Yae Miko's boss Ascension is the boss in Enkanomiya. So not only do you have to get to Inazuma, you have to do enough of the Archon quest to get to Watatsumi, then you have to get far enough in so that way you can do Enkanomiya quest, then you have to finish Enkanomiya so that way you can unlock the boss to then ascend Yae Miko. Yae Miko is not necessarily a beginner-friendly character because of all of that crap. But Just like I did with Kuki, I used Kuki at level 40 until I got to Inazuma at AR 45. So if I can do it with Kuki, you can do it with Yae Miko. So now we're going to talk about a beginner-friendly party. And the way that this works is I am going to only assume that you have pulled Yae Miko. All the other characters are given to you for free by the game. You've done one pull, you got Yae Miko, that's it. So we're going to have Yae Miko, of course. Then we're going to have Kale, who you get for free upon clearing floor 4 of the Spiral Abyss. We're going to have Dendro Traveler, which you can just run over into Sumeru, resonate with a statue, and get Dendro Traveler. Then we're going to have Barbara. Barbara is going to offer a little bit of healing, as well as the ability to make some blooms for Yae Miko to trigger. This is definitely a quick bloom team where you're not going to be applying a ton of hydro. You're mainly going to be using quicken, aggravate, and spread reactions between Yae Miko and the 2 Dendro characters. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be essentially placing Yae Miko's turrets, going between Kale and Dendro Traveler to keep the enemies applied with Dendro. So that way Yae Miko's skill can hit them for the aggravate damage, for the boosted aggravate reaction. That can do a lot of damage. Then whenever we have Yae Miko's burst ready, we are going to drop Kale's burst or Dendro Traveler's burst to have multiple enemies affected by Dendro. We're going to swap to Yae Miko, make sure all 3 turrets are up, and then we are going to hit them with her burst, dealing a lot of damage. Replace the turrets, go back to Kale, Dendro Traveler, keep doing that. Adding Barbara in there for healing, also to get some blooms, so that way Yae Miko can trigger some hyper blooms, but it's really going to be more on the aggravate and spread reactions where our damage is going to come from. And that is going to be it for this beginner guide on Yae Miko. Again, if you did learn something, do be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will see you in the next video.